The Nintendo Switch is one of the greatest, if not the greatest console of all time. Despite being behind its competitors in pure spec power, the dockable handheld concept is one of the greatest innovations brought to the gaming console market in recent times. And the sales back it up, selling 143 million units as of June 2024. However, with all that success, it is time to look to the future as the Switch reaches the end of its lifespan. Switch 2 rumors have begun to run rampant through the forums of the internet, which has left many people wondering, what should the Switch successor be? Nintendo has been in a very similar situation before. You may recall the success of the Nintendo Wii, another console that was the first of its kind in the gaming market, and saw crazy levels of success. The Nintendo Wii sold 101 million units worldwide, which Nintendo infamously followed up with the Wii U, a marketing disaster class that has sold an abysmal 13.5 million copies to date. I hesitate to say this, but I'm noticing a bit of a bad pattern here. Good console to bad console to good console to bad console, and I'm sure any Nintendo fan is hoping this does not become a solidified pattern. With all of that being said, what should Nintendo do with the Switch successor to avoid a failure similar to the Wii U? In this video, I'm going to go over what I think would make the Nintendo Switch 2 a successful console to avoid another catastrophic failure. I'll start with an interesting take that you may not have heard in Switch 2 discussions yet, but I would love to see Nvidia's AI upscaling technology brought to the Switch 2. The Nintendo Switch used an Nvidia GPU, but the Switch released in 2017, far before AI was a buzzword like it is today. Nvidia's AI upscaling uses artificial intelligence to artificially upscale games to resolutions as high as 4K. One issue with the Nintendo Switch was the hardware it was built on just did not keep up very well with the quickly growing demands of modern gaming. Many Switch games are locked at 30 FPS and still have frame drops during intense moments. AI upscaling would not really fix any of the slow frame rate problems or locks, but it would allow games, especially old Switch games, to have upscaled resolutions without relying on the hardware to pump out any games at high resolutions. I'm not normally a fan of AI anything, honestly, but this is a use case I would love to see implemented that could make a big change. As I lightly hinted at in the last section, I think the Switch 2 needs to have backwards compatibility. My Switch library has grown so large over time, many of which are games I still have to play. And honestly, that's just my physical collection. The eShop has had many digital exclusive games that I should be able to continue playing on a new Switch successor. I would love for Nintendo to adopt some Steam-esque system with the eShop, allowing you to feel a sense of security knowing that your library will travel with you to the next Nintendo console. But also, I know that is a bit of a pipe dream. And as long as I can play the games I already have bought on my Switch on this new, more powerful Switch, and maybe use some AI upscaling if that's a thing, that would be a great experience. Plus, as the console releases, it would give everyone who owned, or maybe they didn't own, a Nintendo Switch, a large library of games to play on their new Switch 2. With that being said, I believe another important thing for Nintendo is to stick to the handheld and dockable concept. The popularity of these kinds of devices has been proven with many Windows PC handhelds being released by a multitude of companies. The first that come to mind are the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally. I won't pretend that Nintendo couldn't do something entirely different and shock the world as they have many times in the past, but I also feel that technology is kind of coming to a standstill point for revolutionary growth. In today's age, it's about getting more power out of the devices we've spent the last 10 to 20 years creating. Phones aren't coming out with revolutionary physical changes to technology every year anymore. They are improving on the formula, while making drastic evolutions in the software side, namely with things like AI. Nintendo also has had a chokehold on the handheld gaming market for as long as I can remember. Even during the failures of the Wii U, the Nintendo 3DS was selling over 75 million units. Combining their handheld division and their console division means Nintendo no longer has two consoles at a time like they once did with the Wii and DS lines, or the GameCube and the Game Boy lines. Hardware is becoming more and more powerful, allowing for these two divisions to be combined as seen with the Switch, and I think it would be a huge step backwards to lose the handheld side of things. I don't see a world where the Switch 2 isn't a hybrid handheld device, but I'm also not going to rule it out because it's Nintendo we're talking about here. So AI upscaling, backwards compatibility, and continuation of the handheld and dockable concept are definitely my three biggest wishes for this next Switch. But what about some of the smaller things? These things won't make or break the success of the Switch 2 in my eyes, but they were definitely lacking from the original Switch and could slightly improve my experience with this new Switch successor. I'll start with a really obvious one. Themes. I don't even know what to say about this concept. It's just actually a lie. I just wrote this whole paragraph telling you what I'm going to say. And I'm sure you've heard this before. The Nintendo Switch themes option is almost an infamous screen at this point. You can choose between a light mode and a dark mode, and the rest of the screen is just empty. For the longest time, Nintendo Switch users thought this screen would be expanded on, or surely they made this functionality to grow on it one day, ever, maybe. But as everyone here probably knows, that's all we ever ended up getting on the Switch, was a light mode and a dark mode. Now, I wouldn't say this was something that ever ended up hurting the Switch, besides the fact that the UI just kind of gets boring after a while, and to be fair, that does happen with most UIs after time. You kind of always want to refreshen things up. But wouldn't it be really easy for Nintendo to say, oh, we're not going to release this new UI design really ever. That's not a standard thing you see on consoles. But what if you could refresh it by changing the colors to whatever you want, or buying a theme based on your favorite game on the Nintendo Switch? It honestly really feels like Nintendo left money on the table not expanding on the theme concept. I feel themes would have been a cash cow. I'm like a literal money printer. I'm still honestly shocked that Nintendo never did more with themes. And that's coming off the 3DS, where there was a whole theme shop and it was really cool. I actually still use my Majora's Mask 3DS based theme on my 3DS. Truthfully, my wallet will probably forever thank Nintendo for not releasing Switch themes. I would definitely have way too many of them. But I also would rather have the option to have more customization, and I think this was just an easy one that seemed to be built in. The functionality seemed to be there, just really never got taken advantage of. Now, controllers drifting. Yeah, here we go. You knew I was going to have to talk about it, but it's not a Nintendo exclusive problem. Obviously, the Joy-Cons had a lot of controversy around it, and I won't lie, Nintendo did not handle that controversy well to begin. They kind of denied the whole Joy-Con drift problems. But obviously, the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons had a lot of issues with stick drift. I will give Nintendo a half credit, maybe. They never ended up fixing the issues with the Joy-Con, but they did offer a service that would allow you to send in your Joy-Cons and have them sent back to you repaired for free. I believe you can actually still do this, but don't quote me on that. I did not check when I wrote this script. With that being said, I do wish they would have taken a little more time and addressed the Joy-Con issues in new Joy-Cons that were sold versus just saying, well, once it happens, you can send it to us, we'll fix it. And I hope that they've taken time with their new controllers, whatever they end up looking like, to fix this stick drifting problem. Saying that out loud has made me realize how low my standards are of modern day companies as I sit here recording a script for this video where I just say, yeah, well, if the product functions right, that would be really good. Oh man. Speaking of things that aren't so great, let's talk about the Nintendo eShop. The eShop is one of the worst marketplaces I have ever experienced. The eShop is native Nintendo Switch software, installed in your Switch the moment that you get it. Yet, somehow, it is the ugliest, laggiest, and most difficult thing to navigate on the Nintendo Switch. Searching for games is a slow, laggy nightmare, and the charts consistently only show first-party Nintendo titles or, well, games that have no business being on a console marketed towards families. We'll just put it that way. The eShop not only needs some type of redesign and performance boost on the Switch successor, but Nintendo needs to seriously consider upping their moderation process on what games they allow on the Nintendo eShop. When you can actually figure out how to navigate through the eShop to find some unique games that you might have not heard of, you'll find a lot of free or, $1.99 bloatware games that honestly probably took 2 Red Bulls and a bad idea to create. I should give some credit where credit is due. eShop has been a really great space for a lot of really good indie games to get a platform that they might not otherwise have. And honestly, through Nintendo's partner and indie directs, Nintendo has been a pushing force in promoting indie games, which honestly, some of my favorite games recently have been. Which is why I think that is all the more reason for Nintendo to really hunker down and get some moderation behind the eShop so we can sort through what is a really cool up-and-coming indie game and some bloatware visual novel that honestly shouldn't even be on the Switch in the first place. Oh, and before I wrap this video up, Nintendo, it's 2024. Every online experience is laggy and subpar, especially the ones in your biggest games. Can that just be a thing that doesn't happen? Like, I always justified it before in previous Nintendo consoles as like, well, Xbox and PlayStation, they have to pay for their online access, and Nintendo doesn't charge us, so I really shouldn't complain, but we pay for that now, by the way. You have to have a Nintendo Switch Online membership to do online things, so I have this crazy idea. If you took some of the money you make from that and put it into developing good online infrastructure and servers and things for experiences, for good experiences rather, that would be cool. That would be really cool. that would be great, please. I almost guarantee it won't hurt people's opinion of your games if the online experience is okay. Anyways, those are my biggest thoughts on what the Nintendo Switch successor should look like. With rumors floating around of a potential reveal sometime later this month, perhaps we will see if any of what I've dreamed of will come true. But what do you think? What are your biggest hopes for the Nintendo Switch 2? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to leave a like on this video if you've made it to this far, and subscribe for more content just like this. I'll see you next time.